What's up, guys? Dinosaur here. Today we're going to be talking about Chimera. Greetings once again. I know it's been a while. I'm sorry for the hiatus, but I should be back to bringing videos to you guys relatively often now rather than waiting a month and a half for your next video. Um, and today we're coming back with one of my most controversial opinions when it comes to deck building and one of my favorite archetypes, which is Chimera. And so what you can see pulled up right here is Chimera Azamina, which a lot of people aren't really trying it out. I personally like it because I'm able to do a 40 card deck with it. Obviously, you have, your whole engine. And now, if you know how Chimera works, I don't need to go over really any of this. But in reality, I make a few fusions that don't really stick around. And then the things that do stick around are super, super brutal for you. And a lot of graveyard interaction with this deck, too. So, um, yeah, let's just kick it off. Obviously, you have like the entire Chimera engine. And one thing you might notice is there's no Fiendsmith in this build at all. I really think if you're trying to play the Azamina stuff, you shouldn't even attempt to put all of that in your extra deck. Just because you get to play all four Azamina fusions in this deck, which I really, really like. Specifically Moa Regina, which people don't really talk about. What I really enjoy about the Azamina stuff with Chimera is it's very synergistic. All the things play into the Azamina stuff and vice versa for the most part. It's sort of the same thing with Fiendsmith. Like, Fiendsmith doesn't really get you your Chimera engine. It can in certain ways, or it can unbrick you. The same can be said about Azamina. It can very much so unbrick you, but it doesn't really get you to the Chimera stuff. But the Chimera stuff will absolutely get you to your Azamina stuff, and even be able to like bring things back. So like putting Sylvia on the board as an Omni negate to stop to make sure all of your 2 card starters resolve perfect, and you get to play your whole board, and then you send that. Well, later in your turn, you can bring that back, and then you have that Omni negate on your opponent's turn as well, plus a whole, end board with like Diabells and whatnot. There's really not too much to talk about beyond that. I guess this is the one weird card in here. You just, you're able to find it. So, but yeah, like, I mean, you open a Wanted and any of the Azamina or Sinful Spoils spells or traps, you have like basically your entire end board with that you can make Ursilago and go into Sylvia and then have a Moa like just pretty much ready to go. And that's just off of opening 2 cards there. If you open, obviously there's 9 starters for this. Your best is probably to open Kodal. Yeah, but pretty much going from there, there's not much to actually talk about this deck. A lot of people have cooked this deck a lot. I just can't seem to put it above 40 cards. It just doesn't work for me. But yeah, I mean, your extra deck is very self-explanatory for like this format, really. Now that we're post crossover breakers and whatnot, you could absolutely probably switch out the Nibiru's. You could even probably take out Barrier Statue in your sideboard at this point and just throw in some Lancias. That's kind of like one thing that I could change here. I had these in here as a little bit of an older build, but I have played this deck at a local event, and I won that local event. I can even link the video for that description there. So that'll be down in the description. But the it's a little bit different. I was playing the Edge Imp stuff. I don't like the Edge Imp stuff. That's very apparent. I always say you'd be better off playing like Gilgarth. Just at least it's a brick. So, but yeah, let me just show you like some random hands here. Alright, so I'm going to choose to go first here. Oh, okay. This is a little bit of an awkward starter. Well, yeah, we're going to draw phase, activate the Wanted. That's how we play around Joel. Just add you. Nothing here. We're just going to discard the Fua for this since we're going first. grab hollowed. So we have a couple options here. This is probably going to be your best option. We're probably going to tribute summon with this hand. But we will bring this back from the grave later, so keep that in mind. It's always awkward opening up Baphomet, but that's okay. Yeah, we're going to grab both off of Baphomet, and then, yeah, just on res. We're going to the first one here. We're going to trigger, so Gazelle is going to be Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2 is going to be the Baphomet, and that's targeting Sylvie, and then, yeah, we're going to also trigger this as 3. Yeah, so we just want to grab Diabels here. Immediately, we want to return this. We got this. We could consider drawing a card here, just because the hand was a little bit of a brick. Bringing this back, though, might be a really good play. Although we do have Diabels, we could special summon Diabels right now. That's not what we want to do here. We want to use Diabels for fusion material. We're going to make Baphomet. Alright, we're going to activate you. We're going to send Master Tau to the grave and activate his effect. That's how we're going to bring back Diabels. And yeah, I think at this point we have 2 pretty good interruptions. I think we do just swing this, since we are able to recycle illusion monsters pretty often here. So yeah, we're just gonna activate there. We drew another imperm, which is not a bad thing at all. But yeah, so you can see even just off of like a little brick here, we've got an Omni negate. We have, well, no negates in the graveyard, unfortunately, but we have a reborn of a beast, fiend, or illusion. When this hits the graveyard, we have something that we can take from banishment, and your opponent can't set spells or traps, and we have 3 things set, 2 imperms and a called by. That's just the hand that we were dealt. This is an extremely powerful end board, even though it doesn't look like it. Alright, and we've got another play line for you here, just off of, say, this hand here. During the draw phase, we're not going to be doing anything, but we're going to start all of our plays here, activating Deception. We're going to activate Deception by pitching this Fualos that we drew. We're going to grab Hollowed. And here, obviously, a couple options. If we're going second, Eris Cyctron is honestly a pretty good pick because he does break boards. But we're going first, so we're going to choose Sylvia here. And we've got nothing from there, so from here, I would activate Codal. See if your opponent, kind of bait the Ash Blossom on Codal. But we're just going to grab Baphomet here. This way we're not locking ourselves into fusion when we summon off of Mirror Sword. So we just find Chimera Fusion here. On res, as usual, we'll slam it. Yep. Gazelle is usually Chainlink 1. It's the easiest to negate, so always chain block that. We'll bring back the Mirror Sword here. That's actually very important for this playline. And you. Now, the illusion that we're going to search here is very dependent. You either want Diabels, so you can set up a Diabels play, or you can take the Nightmare Apprentice, and if you have a card, obviously we have an Imperm, we'd much rather set that going first, or we would have used that going second to negate what they had. But you want to find Nightmare Apprentice if you're planning on making Chaos Angel. So since we didn't lock ourselves into fusions, we could grab Nightmare Apprentice. It's just leaving play lines open. So absolutely could just grab that and make a Chaos Angel here, but we won't. We're going to go with the Diabels playline here. Obviously, right on res, we're going to immediately return that Chimera Fusion. So obviously, we can do do whatever we need to right now. We can actually even make Chaos Angel with what we have on the field, because Mirror Sword Knight's a light monster. And, of course, a level 6. And we have a level 6 here in a dark monster as well, which we could reborn pretty easily if we want to. So making a Chaos Angel isn't always terrible, especially with Sylvia. It's why it's in there. We're not going to activate this. So we're going to... Yeah, we could special summon, we could use this. So if we're not going to make Chaos Angel, we could either leave the Mirror Sword Knight on the board, which is never a bad idea. It can't be destroyed by battle. But we'd activate that to set up our next plays. So we're actually just going to use Chimera Fusion here. We're going to make the Baphomet with the Diabels in our hand. Now, this is sort of similar to the last one that we just did. But yeah, again, send Master Tau. Master Tau is going to find us Diabels. We're going to put that right on the board. I don't think there's anything we want to go into here. So we just set that imperm, and now we're ending on a much different end board, even though it seems almost the exact same. This time we've got Omni for something that targets. We will have basically draw phase. We're going to windmill this Sword Knight into either a Baphomet or a Gazelle. Baphomet's probably the better answer, to be honest, so you can grab 2 cards for your follow-up next turn. And that's a monster negate. It's more like an effect veiler on field negate. You got your Omni. They can't, though. They have to set their spells and traps. And then you can, of course, pop something on there. So this guy is not a bad target to pop. But be careful, because you lose your negates in your graveyard if he's not there. So you have to be very specific about that. And then, yeah, then you have a set imperm, which is just huge. So this end board is honestly wild, and there's a lot of follow-up going on too, especially since during your end phase, Deception is going to set itself back. And of course, you know, they discard a card. And then right in their draw phase is when we're going to activate that. We just throw a Baphomet into defense mode, activate its effect, and we grab both. Oop. Boom. And now you got 2 negates in the graveyard, an Omni on the field, and whenever they set stuff, an imperm set and Deception for follow-up. So it's beautiful, beautiful end board. That's why I can't get away from this deck. So, alright guys, lastly, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the Azamina engine. So obviously, Urcielago is kind of just supplementary. We can't make this natively. We have to make it with the Sinful Spoils stuff. So it really is only an extender if you already... It's like a win more card in this deck. But it does come up, so it's getting a spot in the extra deck. Specifically, Moa Regina I want to talk about, because none of the Playlines that we did involved her, and she's very much so you're going... not necessarily even going second. She is your follow-up. So one of the big things about her is it's just any illusion monster, which we have a ton of. The deck is just filled with them. And then 1 level 6 or higher Fiend monster, which we have right here in Baphomet. We also have with Magnum the Reliever. And even Chaos Angel, by the way. So those are the 3 that you would make this with. And when you do, she reborns an illusion monster. And then if you activate, you know, something that's a Azamina or Sinful Spoils, and let me double check the wording on this, but yeah, when an Azamina or Sinful Spoils card or effect is activated. So this triggers off of, you know, Diabellstar. If you already have this out, it triggers off of Diabells when you either set something, you know, and do anything like that. It triggers off of using Wanted in the graveyard to draw a card. You know, same thing, Subdual. It just off of all of those, you get to pop 2 cards. It is targeted, but you still get to destroy 2 cards on the field just for doing what you are already going to do. And that's a huge deal. And usually if Moa Regina is on the board, you will have Deception as well, so you'll make your opponent lose 15 and gain 15 also. And I just wanted to add that in at the end, because such a clutch card, and nobody really plays her or talks about her that much. And I really wanted to make sure that we're clear on why she's in here, and that is 100% the reason. And Eris Cyctron is in here just. It's a board breaker, and of course, it's an Azamina card that can trigger things. It returns Azamina or Sinful Spoils cards from your graveyard to your hand. So during the standby phase, so it's a little but mainly as a board breaker for basically free by opening Unwanted. So obviously we went over where we could have made Chaos Angel. The card you can't cut this card from this deck. It's just way too important. Because and basically anytime that you could make this, you can make SP, and this will allow you to still attack directly and go for the OTK. Cross Sheep, I actually think you could cut this from this build of the deck. But it does come up every now and then, so just keep that in mind. It's not a bad card to have in here. And of course, Silhouette, it's kind of dealer's choice. Sometimes you just open Azaroon and you just don't need Silhouette. And sometimes it's just not optimal to make a Silhouette. So it's you know, it's in there. Keep in mind it is an illusion monster, so you do get to use it as fusion material for something. This is why Silhouette. I only put Silhouette in a deck if I can abuse it, because people will just shove this thing into anything, and I always think it's wrong, because if you're leaving Silhouette on the board, like, all you're really doing is getting a pop, and you're not, like, yeah, it can't be destroyed by battle, but, like, that's all it is. It's just a link to, you're just setting up a summon negate. But if you can set up the summon negate and then use it additionally as material to go into better things, that's when Silhouette Rabbit becomes so good, and that's why it's in this deck, because it is an illusion monster that you can use to fusion summon with. It's why I put it in my sprite builds even, because it is a link 2 that I can make gigantic sprite with. But if we're leaving it on the board, I don't think it's worth it. So I didn't make it in any of the examples because it just wasn't worth it to leave it on the board. It was much better to just go for the follow-up plays, or go for, the first one we did was a little bit bricky, but, that's why Silhouette's in here. It's actually very, very important. So definitely keep that in mind. Anyways, I've been Danosaur. Thanks for checking it out.